Live chat was something that you took from, I think you said 10,000 a month to $150,000 a month in sales.
And over time, it wasn't one thing in particular. It was all those just little changes that got us well over 200 at this point a month in chat related sales. If we could set up stores that could run remotely, could we feed our top salespeople more opportunities and have less staff overall? In theory, the answer so far is no. We have a mini jumbotron in the middle of our stores. There's no one in the store. Salesperson appears on that screen.
Oh my gosh.
It's hard to get people that interested. Some people were pretty freaked out by the screens. The biggest thing that I found is the difference in performance between a top chat agent and an okay chat person was 10x. Really try to do the things that work in other traditional sales, but over chat.
Hey, it's Andrew here, and welcome to the eCommerce Fuel Podcast, the show dedicated to helping 7- and 8-figure brand owners build incredible businesses and amazing lives. And you know, sometimes you get a little bit more than you bargained for. Well, I was in the ECF community reading through all the stuff that's in there, as I am prone to do, and hours disappear quickly. And I came across this thread from a somewhat new member who talked about how he took his live chat sales from $10,000 a month to $150,000 a month. And it was pretty remarkable. And so reached out, asked him to come on the podcast. And man, the discussion that Matthew Timmins and I had, who's the founder of levasleep.com, just went so much more beyond the live chat part that I was excited to talk to him about. I mean, we of course talk about the key lessons from a live chat program when it makes sense, but we also get into just the wild difference in salesmen, productivity on his sales team, a very cool device that can help, an AI-enabled device that can actually look at your sales team's calls and help make your sales teams more productive and it's been useful for them. They do something phenomenally unique with brick-and-mortar stores. They're able to operate, or at least at one point, they were able to operate 6 brick-and-mortar stores with 2 salespeople. And if you're wondering how that's possible, it's through a pretty amazing set of technology they produce. You have to listen to find out how, but never heard it before. Anyway, Matt is just a really interesting guy. I love this discussion. And we're going to kick it off with something that also did not see coming. And that's how he survived a pretty wild attack that he did not anticipate. I'm not talking about a business attack. I'm talking about being attacked by a pack of wild animals. Yeah. How many podcasts do you listen to that kick off that way? Not many. We'll get into it right after this. So out of the gates, we always ask people, kind of what they're most interested about talking about, or anything, kind of unique that's happened to them. And you're the first person who's ever said prior to an interview that you were recently attacked by a pack of coyotes while out for a run, or doing anything for that matter. And so I got to ask, what is the story with that? I mean, it seems like a fairly unique experience. And how did you seem fairly well and healthy now? Well, what was the story here? What happened?
Yeah, so I guess, most people I've talked to about this have never heard of this happening. So I'm, up north in Canada where I am, there's some hybrids. They call them coy wolves, where I guess they've slowly morphed between coyotes and wolves over the years. So maybe it's not purely a coyote, but as I'm sure some of your listeners know, just with the eComm, kind of business owner hours, I have a young daughter at home. So I'm trying to sneak in fitness whenever I can. So I'll usually go to the work, do the full day's work, then come home, have family time. And because I've been trying to push longer and longer runs, I've been doing them late at night. So I was out between, I think at this one, it was 10:30 at night. And I was out north of where I live, which is Oakville, Ontario. It's about 30 minutes west of Toronto. But I was running, and then all of a sudden I'm running along, and I see a coyote running beside me, kind of just, it almost seemed like a dog, but we're used to seeing coyotes around. They're kind of everywhere, but they've never really been an issue for us. So I'm running beside and don't really, notice anything. And all of a sudden it comes around and it squares me up, and it's looking right at me, probably 15 feet away. And I noticed there's a couple other coyotes in the field behind. And so first thing, I kind of put my hands in the air. I make a lot of noise, just kind of try to scare it off. and it backs up for a second and then turns on its heel, runs straight at me, jumps up and bites me in the chest.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I threw a punch. I was like, and I threw a punch, fight it off, and it backs up and it's coming at me again for another round. And luckily a car is driving down the highway and I'm having this melee in the middle of the highway at 10:30 at night. And a nice family, they don't speak any English, so the communication was a little different, but they were like asking me if I'm okay. And I said, yeah, I think I'm fine, should be okay. And I start to continue to run down the road. And all of a sudden I see them continue to stalk me. So I turn around, I do a 180 and I run back to the car and I say, sorry guys, move over, I got to get in. And hopped in next beside grandma, and they drove me a little bit down the road, and I hopped out, and it's kind of like in the movies where they say, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then the adrenaline wears off and I feel down and there's, blood dripping from my chest, and it kind of chomped, once right there. So luckily I had a vest on because I was doing longer runs. So I had the running vest on, and my cell phone was right there. So it bit my cell phone through there and then still drew blood, but it wasn't too bad. So I ended up getting the 4 rounds of rabies shots just to be sure, because you never know with that kind of stuff. But it was it was a little crazy. So that was one of the bigger adventures of the summer, I'd say.
That's insane. And rabies is crazy. I didn't realize until I went hiking the Grand Canyon this year, and there was all this talk about rabies because apparently there's a lot of rabies in bats on the Grand Canyon. And I always thought it was like kind of a slightly inconvenient thing to get. But if you get rabies and you don't get treated for it, you don't get the shots for it within, I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks, it's like 100% death. Like you will die, and you die in a rough way too. I didn't realize how serious it was.
Yeah. I mean, this is my brother. So my brother and I are good friends. And the day after, he's like, so are you getting your rabies shots? And I looked up the stats, and there's been basically no coyotes with rabies in North America reported in the last 20 years. And he's like, yeah, but it's a fully preventable thing. If you just go and get the shots, you want that to be on your tombstone. Matt died a fool from not getting fully preventable shots after getting bit by coyote. It's like the only person to die in the last, 50 years. But so I ended up going to get them, of course. And he sent me, actually, a couple weeks later, he sent me this link that first reported rabies case, in our area too. So it was funny.
I love how most people, if they were like, hey, I got attacked by a pack of coyotes, the story would be like, I was walking to the store and they surrounded me and I got scared and ran away. Yours is A, they were not coyotes, they were like wolf coyote hybrids. And B, right, they jumped up werewolf style and attacked you in the chest, and you had to like flee into an oncoming car. I'm glad you're okay, man. That's a pretty wild story. I hope.
Yeah, at the time it didn't seem that concerning, and then I look back and I'm thinking, well, it was good I was on a road that had cars on it, because you never know in those, if you're by yourself and there's a few of them, things could turn hairy, I think. So
do you run with a machete now, like a machete strapped to your leg when you go out for your runs?
That's right.
I've
been kind of trying a few things out, A/B testing, extendo bat, the bear spray, the machete. It's like, do I just want to scare them off, or do I need the carcass next time to prove that this actually happened?
Oh man, bear spray I feel like is highly effective. Like I'll use it for like just in the house as kind of a home deterrent, a home invasion deterrent, but also when I've been on long bike trips. I've been biking. I've never had to use it, but I've come up in a crew biking with good friends on a multi-day trip where we got attacked by wild dogs, and they pulled out the bear spray, and man, it one little quarter second burst and it just clears the area. That stuff is potent.
Oh yeah. So that's probably the ticket right there. Just a little small travel size bear spray and you're good to go.
Yeah, just don't fall in it and you're in good shape. So then it's rough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm going to make a real hard right turn here. I'm not sure how well I'm going to segue into stuff here. We'll go from, rabid, crazy werewolf coyotes into beds, because you've got such a cool business. I introduced it at the top, gave people a sense of what you do. But I'm curious, like when I think about the bed market, huge TAM, tons of customers, but also because of that, it seems like it would be a pretty brutal market to try to compete and differentiate in. So how do you do that? Like, how do you set yourself apart in a market that, you've got competitors that I don't know how well they're doing now, but I think of like the Caspers and the Purples of the world. They've just had, investors just shoveling money at them faster than they can, probably spend it. How do you differentiate in such a crowded, competitive market?
It's a good question, and it seems to be getting more and more competitive by the day. I saw, there was a recent report that, they were analyzing Casper's business originally, and just the overall, lifespan of it. It's like it was the equivalent of Casper was losing $100 per customer with how much, venture money was being dumped into it at one point. So, it's also tough when you're competing with people that profitability isn't always the number one concern, rather than just taking market share. But for us, I never wanted to be a mattress retailer. I think that when you look, to the layman looking at our site, you would say we're a mattress retailer, but really for us, what we do is we specialize in adjustable beds. So I always kind of aspire to, there's riches and niches. I don't want to try to compete against every single mattress person out there. It's a tough business. And I think also just the overall average order size is small if you're just selling mattresses. So for us, we really specialize in the adjustable bed, the entire thing that goes up and down. So they have basically everything we sell as a package. It's the mattress as well as the adjustable base underneath. And we really focus on just the entire thing, the entire package altogether for one price. So that's been really helpful for us because our average ticket is way higher than a traditional mattress retailer, but also because we specialize in it, all of the beds we carry are designed to bend. All of the accessories that we sell are meant for an adjustable bed. And we really we can focus on that specifically, as well as we're a manufacturer of adjustable beds as well. So we not only have our retail arm, but we build a lot of the bases ourselves. So by cutting out the middleman, we can just kind of offer some more direct to consumer prices, but then also we can add features. We can push features to market a little quicker because there's not that gap between who's building them and what we're selling them.
So do you make all of your own stuff? Like I know your products are made in Canada. So do you make all of the beds, all of the adjustable frames, or do you make just some of it and then you have supply partners that make some of it?
Yeah, exactly. It's not all of it. For just where we are in Toronto, it's already a massive hub for mattress manufacturing. So if you look at all of the largest manufacturers, your Kingsdown, Serta, Sealy, Tempur-Pedic, all of the big mattress manufacturers already have factories within 30 minutes of us. So for mattresses, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. All these people have so much experience and they really do amazingly at what they do. So we just focus on the adjustable base portion. And we bring in German motors. We have, some of the electronics come in from overseas, but for the bases themselves, we do the majority of the manufacturing here. So it's been a bit of an adventure over time, getting to that point where, learning the manufacturing side of it and making sure that the bases are done really well. And at a reasonable price point hasn't been the easiest thing, but it's been a good moat for us now that we're doing it, because pricing, people can't compete with us a lot of the time, but also just having the only locally made product, some people just don't want to buy something from overseas.
Yeah. Why is Canada and the Toronto, outside the Toronto area specifically, a hotbed for, I didn't even mean to pun that, for mattress manufacturing? I would never guess that. I would guess Mexico. I would guess, somewhere overseas, bring it in. What is it about? Do you know why, what are the dynamics that come to play to make it a popular spot to do that?
That's a good question. In this area, a lot of people don't realize, but the greater Toronto area, Southern Ontario here where we are, there's like 10 million people. So it's a big hub just economically for Canada. But then for mattresses, it's always been that way. I think that just from a Canada manufacturing standpoint, most mattresses are built locally, so they want to just be built close to where the population is. But in terms of why everything is done here, I think it's really just they're around where the majority of people are. So there are some factories out west as well in Vancouver. But even for cars, because of the cheaper labor in Canada compared to the US, GM, Ford, all the, auto manufacturers have plants here too, and then they ship stuff to the U.S. so they can still avoid those tariffs, keep things North American made. So maybe it's along those lines as well for slightly cheaper labor bringing stuff into the U.S.
Interesting. And then you have a 25-year warranty on the mattress, which I'm not a mattress expert. I'm guessing, I was looking at one of your comparison charts before we hopped on here, though. I'm guessing that's substantially longer than most of your competitors. Correct me if I'm wrong, but how is that played out in the business? I mean, is that something, obviously, if you've got a great product, you can put a good warranty on it.
Yeah.
A better question would be, how impactful is that into the purchasing decisions and the psyche behind your customers? Like, do you hear people mention that a lot? I know with e-commerce fuel, we hear a lot like, oh, hey, one of the things that sold me was like the 10x guarantee. Like, if I don't get my money back, that you'll pay me all of my year's dues plus $1,000. And that really convinces a lot of people. So has that been a pretty instrumental sales piece in terms of converting people, that 25-year warranty?
Yeah, I think it's been a good one. I think we've also, just as of this week, we're now offering customers a lifetime warranty on their base. So with some of our warranties, with adjustable bases, a lot of the time it's a tiered warranty. So you're going to have 2 to 5 years on the motors, and then you get up to that 25 years on structural components, the steel frame, the wood, that kind of stuff. But we're now offering customers a lifetime warranty for a little bit of extra money. But the biggest pushback that we hear from customers is just, are you guys going to be around? As some small businesses can know, as you're building your reputation. They're like, that doesn't mean that much if you guys are out of business in 2 or 3 years. So
25-year warranty, and our company established 2023. 2023.
Yeah, exactly. We're thinking about offering, that 20% discount for seniors. Like, your lifetime isn't that long, so we'll give you a little bit of a break on the extended warranty there.
25 years or when you perish, whatever comes first.
So, yeah, exactly. So
I want to see the ads. When you spin up the ads for that, you got to shoot them over to me. I would love to.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to dive into live chat. You wrote a fantastic case study in the forums for your experience, or not case study, experience share, when you joined recently, about how live chat really transformed your business. I think the origins of it were, it was COVID. You have a lot of brick-and-mortar stores, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So you couldn't open those up, and so online was really your primary channel. And live chat was something that you took from, I think you said 10,000 a month to, which was happened just here and there, to $150,000 a month in sales. I'd love to hear your learnings from that, like how you really dialed that in. A lot of people will throw a live chat site or a functionality up on a website and just hope it works and maybe plug it back into their help desk. But it sounds like you really spent the time to A/B split test, to see what worked, to dial things in. So yeah, I'd love to hear some of your learnings about what worked and what didn't, and what was the 80-20 of making that live chat work so well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the big push on live chat, as you mentioned, was during COVID. We keep, once you have a number of retail stores and all of our staff, the taps turned off, especially in Canada. I know I have family down in Florida, and they were laughing, saying, I don't know what you're talking about. What COVID? We're wide open thing, and they're having a great time. But for us, not having customers allowed to come into the store in Canada, a lot of the time it was pretty heavy-handed for quite some time, that we just needed to figure out a way to make things work. So the live chat was something that I've had some experience with. I mean, from the lowest hanging fruit, we would find, hey, just being available on live chat, you'd have seniors or somebody that wasn't as computer literate trying to check out, and they'd come on the chat and say, hey, I can't work this. Can you help me? And we'd take their hand, walk them across the finish line, and you could get business just being there, a helping hand. So that's kind of level one. But once we really dove into the different software that we were using, how we were engaging customers, we got on a really, really deep dive on this. And as simple as, there's certain situations where instead of just having a chat bar at the bottom, having the chat window pop up and ask a customer if they had any questions after 7-8 seconds would initiate more chats and have us just begin the conversation with customers. But the biggest thing that I found, which was really interesting, is the difference in performance between a top salesperson, a top chat agent, and an okay chat person was 10x. So
Wow.
the biggest, the easiest comparison I would find is if you have a customer and they're coming to your retail store, they've already hopped in their car, they've driven there, they've gotten out of their car, they're committed, they've come into your store. So there's more friction in leaving. So if you don't give that great of a presentation in store, they're probably still going to buy. For the most part, your top sales guys will still sell more because they're better at what they do, but your okay guys will still do pretty well for themselves. Where if you're talking to a customer on a chat, the moment they're not engaged, the moment they hear something they're not interested in, there is zero friction in them just clicking the window and leaving. So the bar for how we did things was so much higher because you just didn't sell product unless you were really, really good at it. You know, so we spent some time, we spent some time really dialing everything in. And over time, it wasn't one thing in particular. It was all those just little things, little changes, little tweaks that got us from 10 to 20 to 50 to 100 to 150. And now we're pushing well over 200 at this point a month in chat related sales.
That's amazing. What is it? What differentiates a great, I think we all know good salesmen. Like if I was going to walk into your brick and mortar, like I would just say a great salesperson would, first and foremost, they'd make rapport quickly. They'd be friendly. They'd be easy to connect with. They'd ask a lot of information, a lot of questions. They'd get to know what you need, what's important to you. They'd have great knowledge and mastery of the product line, so they could quickly kind of show you what fit. Is that the same? How is that different from a great salesman on a live chat? Because like you mentioned, you've got the kind of the TikTok attention span online where you're trying to fight. So how does a great salesperson take what works in the real world for sales and make sure that they don't lose, their prospect when they've got them hooked?
Yeah, I think it's so close to what a really good salesperson does in any sales situation. I think that the biggest thing that we try to convey to our sales team is, yes, there are small, slight differences from just the format, but really you're connecting with people. So who's asking the right questions? They're not here to buy a bed. They're here because they're having a particular issue. They're sleeping hot. Their husband or wife is snoring and it's keeping them up. They have hip pain. They have shoulder pain. So if we can ask the right questions and really just get down to the why they're actually here, that's when things change. And we don't want it to be a really robotic chat experience. It was supposed to be, hey, let your personality come through. Let them know about you. Really try to do the things that work in other traditional sales, but over chat. So yeah, I mean, that's the main stuff I would say.
It's amazing. I just made a fairly large purchase, and I went to a couple different places, and the first salesperson didn't connect with them on a rapport level at all, right? Like there's a zero rapport. The second guy, super friendly, warm, charismatic. And I like to think of myself as like a fairly rational person, right? Like when I buy something, you go to like Google and all like top 30 results are all purple because I've read them all. I've done the research. And so I like to think I'm making an informed decision. But it shocked me in retrospect how much of my comfort, and it wasn't the rational side, it was the comfort of making the purchase once I had kind of thought about it. But yeah, that rapport building and that comfort level is really huge. And so with the importance of that on your team, do you do extensive training with your sales agents? I'm guessing one of my questions was like, do you use AI agents for this? I'm guessing the answer is a hard no based on everything you're telling me.
No, but so it's a good segue though, because I'm always pushing, as you probably imagine from this chat thing, I'm pushing the envelope on technology to try to leverage different technology. Because the way I look at it, if you're competing in whatever industry, or at least for us as a medium-sized business, we have some disadvantages against the big national brands. They're going to have slightly better purchasing power. They're going to have exclusives. They're going to have, access to things that we don't have access to. So how we can win is by taking advantage of things that are coming up, especially with AI and technology that maybe some of these big guys aren't adopting yet. So we've been experimenting this year with a couple of really interesting things that I'm excited about. Have you ever heard of a company called Rilla?
No.
Okay, so Rilla is a company. They're mainly focused in the home services space, but what they do is you have the app on your phone, and you have your agents record. They record your sales conversation when you're with a customer, and it can just sit in your pocket. It's recording whenever you're in an interaction with a customer, and at the end, you can ask it. AI analyzes the entire conversation, and as a manager, you can listen, and it highlights just if you a 50-minute sales presentation, a manager could listen to 5 minutes of key moments, and it will give you just the really key points. But the cooler part is you can ask AI, hey, what are 3 things I did well? What are 3 things I can improve on? It'll analyze your whole conversation, and the more data your company feeds this thing, it will start to tell you best practices that you didn't even know were best practices based off of what agents are closing, what techniques they're using. So we're the first retail business to use this. I reached out to them and was like, hey, this is cool. I know you're not doing this in a retail setting, but I want to try this. And the CEO flew in and met with us, and we've been using it for 3 or 4 months now. And it's been pretty awesome. The problem for us right now is just convincing our salespeople to actually turn it on and turn it off. It's like you're constantly saying, like, this is not an option. We need this information. This helps you. The people that use this make more money. They sell more. But that's been the main headache. When it's actually used, it's awesome.
It's called Rilla. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Rilla. So it's been an interesting thing. And I mean, we're working with them where they're experimenting with bringing in a camera so that they could just essentially analyze body language, analyze the entire conversation in the store, and then send you a report at the end of the day. So I think there are some pretty cool things happening in that space, especially from just the sales side of things, where people don't want to have a management conversation. If you're a sales guy, of course I want to do better. I want to sell more, but I don't want to have my manager constantly on me. So with this, it's cool because the guys can just study their own stuff. They can ask questions. They can listen back. They can be like, oh yeah, I could have done this better. Oh, why did I not talk about this? Oh, this was an opportunity I missed. And it's just them and their own thing. So it's been very cool. And it's taking over the home services space. I mean, it's everywhere there when they do their in-home pitches. They say that their reps on average sell like 20 or 30% more when using this thing. So it's pretty substantial.
I'm looking at this. I'm thinking I should feed every one of my podcasts into this and get critical feedback on how to actually do better. I'm looking at the website right now, and it looks like it's designed just for sales and service. But heck, I might try this for the podcast too. It can save me from asking more dumb questions along the road. So.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, I think some of the dumb questions are what makes them interesting moments, right? It can't all be perfectly buttoned up.
Yeah, very true. What were some of you A/B tested stuff? What were some of the things that you experimented with on the live chat side that you dropped, did not work, and you abandoned because it just underperformed?
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing was we were constantly, so you're in the middle of talking to a customer and you're trying to present options for them to buy, right? So what we would do initially was we'd be chatting with somebody and then say, hey, and check out this product. And we'd send a link, and we'd have our team send links to people. But the issue was anytime we'd send a link, if depending on the browser they were using, it would just shut the chat and they would leave, and a new window would pop up and we're gone. They're the puff of smoke and they're out of there, and you never hear from them again. So we started sending screenshots of everything so we could keep them in that same window. So we would essentially recreate them looking through that page we were going to show them. We'd send them the first product page. Then we'd show them the features underneath. Then we'd show them different things. And you can kind of create that experience while keeping them right in front of you. So that was one thing, because our conversions fell off a cliff as soon as we started sending those.
So the
sending those
chat
links.
software doesn't have the ability to be smart enough to pull up the link in the browser and keep your chat window in the foreground? That seems like basic chat technology software 101.
I mean, it does for the most part, but I think there's just so many different devices, so many different browsers that it's not perfect. But I mean, there is the chat software that we were using was pretty, I mean, it was pretty next level, I would say. The one thing that was, I don't know, a little controversial, you might say, that was with the chat software that we use, they call it customer sneak peek. So a customer would be typing a message and then you can see what they're typing before they've clicked enter. So the agents are off like finding answers to their questions before they've clicked. And it's sometimes if there's someone who's 70, 80 years old, they're typing for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, this one long message. And then you're off trying to find the answer. And so you had to be careful not to respond to their answer before they click enter though, or else that can get a little awkward.
That could get super awkward. Oh, I love it. How do you find, like, are these Canadians that you have running the sales? Are you hiring people that are just, fantastic salesmen from around the world? And how are you finding great live chat salesmen?
Mostly, so I experimented with some overseas workers. I mean, I have one person who works for me in the Philippines still in the sales side of it, who works from midnight to 8 a.m. just to cover our late night chats. And it's nice for them I actually have her set up where she works 9 to 12, goes to the beach in the middle of the afternoon, and then works from 6 to 9 or something like that. So she gets that break in the middle of the day, but we want her here, kind of in the peak times where we'd actually see people. It's interesting. I mean, I don't think that the quality is as good. Really, our top chat people are just our top salespeople. So I kind of find I run our sales team in our business like a sports team, like a baseball team or like a hockey team, if you're talking like Canadian. So we have our people who are working in our stores. And if they're really good, then we give them access to chats. If they're really good, then, so there's kind of different ways we sell within our business. We have our in-store, we have over the phone, we have over chat. We even have some stores that are operating remotely. So we have no people in the stores and we just have salespeople sell customers remotely when they're in store.
Wait, hold on. How how does that work? So people will walk in, there's a showroom, no salespeople there. Is there an iPad? Is there like a, Space Odyssey style robot that comes up with, that they do remotely? How do you do that?
So I was doing a little bit of homework before coming on here. I was listening to your last episode, and you were chatting with your previous guest. I forget his name. Sorry, he's really a great guy. But you were talking about how with customer acquisition costs rising, so much of the businesses that are succeeding it's not just about getting that great ROAS, but keeping operational efficiency as tight as possible. So with all of this stuff happening over chats, I had a theory that if we could set up stores that could run remotely, could we feed our top salespeople more opportunities and have less staff overall? So what we basically do in some of our stores, I went a little too hardcore on this to start, and I've kind of scaled things back, but we have a big cylindrical screen. So picture it if you're at a basketball game, big stadium, it's like a jumbotron in the middle of the stadium. We have a mini jumbotron in the middle of our stores. And when a customer comes in, if there's no one in the store, salesperson appears on that screen and can move their face around in 360 degrees. And then we have a SpaceX engineer build out a remote controller so we can control any of our adjustable beds remotely from anywhere in the world.
Oh my gosh.
My theory on this, and some people think I'm a little crazy on this, but you're of course not going to sell more beds over a screen than in person if you're there. Yeah. But would I rather have my top sales guy over a screen compared to one of the lower guys without? So this is my thought is, can I just only keep top guys and they could be anywhere in the world? You could have the top sales talent anywhere and they come in remotely and handle it, this way. So in theory, the answer so far is no. It's hard to get people that interested. Some people were pretty freaked out by the screens, but I think that sometimes it's like nothing ventured, nothing gained. So
I think we know why somebody's sick to pack of Coyotes on you now. It's all the stories kind of coming together here.
Well, I mean, you know what? Usually you don't hear all these things about my business one after another. So maybe it sounds like these are all things that have happened over a number of years. So, but the remote stores, I mean, the real, I think it's worked out positively for our business. Just simply, we try to keep our team lean. We don't want to have too many people, but if we only have one person working for a day in a showroom and they call in sick or their kids are sick and they can't come into work, it's a problem when our stores just can't open. And then you have customers that are showing up and da-da-da-da. So we still want to keep our stores as lean as possible. So the nice thing with our business now is any of our stores can just be opened with the flick of a switch. We can run our stores remotely. If customers want to shop at 11 p.m., they can come and make an appointment and go into one of our stores at 11 p.m. We can have someone open this door. We can sell them a bed. I mean, so it gives us the flexibility, but I still think that overall, from looking at the numbers, it's still better, at least in 2024. Maybe if the technology gets better, it's still better. People want to see that live warm body, that smiling face in person. So that's kind of where we're at now. It's a cool tool, but it's not fully the future. If you talked to me 6 months ago, I would have said, this is everything. We've only got employees that, online now. It's going to be fully remote, but it's not that simple.
I mean, it's such a cool technological thing to pull off, though. I mean, even if it's kind of freaky and it causes a few people to trip over themselves on the way out because they're backing up in kind of fear, it's such an interesting integration. I wonder too, I don't know if this is the case with your brick and mortar shops, but I think I've been in a mattress store once or twice in my life. And the last time I was in there, like most entrepreneurs, I'm running numbers in my head. And so I'm like, okay, the space is here. This place is huge. I see like one other person in like this 20,000 square foot showroom doing the math and then figuring out, okay, oh man, and I asked the salesperson, it's amazing. I don't know if you ever noticed this. It is amazing what salespeople or just employees will tell you about a business if you ask. Like, I mean, it's unreal. And so I asked him, I was like, hey, how many people do you have coming in on a daily basis? He's like, oh, on a daily basis, like a busy day is like 9 or 10. And some days it'll be like 2 or 3 people. And I'm like, You're open from 8 to 7, 13 hours, or 12 hours. What is it? 11 hours a day. And you get 3 people in some days. He's like, yeah. So is that the case with you too? And if so, I can see why it'd be so attractive to have a remote sales team.
100%. This is the thing. I mean, some days we have some stores that we'll see on average 2 people a day. So, I mean, it's not huge business that way, but then our average ticket is big. So it's not even from a traditional retail store, our average ticket is larger. So it's not a problem. But again, you don't want to have someone sitting there all day. I'm like, we're paying for this labor. Could we not just reduce everything? And, so there are certain days when we are at our peak of this remote store experiment, we have 6 retail stores and we had two associates running all 6. So it was a little much, because then sometimes you would have all of a sudden the phone rings and all of a sudden, it all comes in waves. So then the phone's ringing, there's people coming on the chat, there's people in 4 stores and they're wondering what's going on, because the person's trying to have a person in front of them in their own store. And then there's a remote store to deal with. So it's not a perfect situation, but we still use it. I mean, and there's still days every single week that our stores are empty, and we've sold a couple $1 million through the screen still at this point. So it's not, I mean, when I talk about an experiment, there's people handing their credit cards to the screen and proceeding, that we are still getting things done, but it's just, we're probably closing at 10 or 15% lower clip than we do in store. And at volume, it makes it not worth it to not have the guy in there.
The title for this episode is just writing itself here, Matt. How to run 6 brick and mortars with 2 humans, Megatrons, and a bunch of robots. It's amazing. Yeah, so that makes sense. That makes more sense to me now, how your top salesmen are also able to do live chat. Because I was trying to think, like, how would you be able to be on the floor helping customers, but then also be able to field the live chats coming in, but with the customer flow, that makes more sense.
Yeah, and we also have a group chat for the guys that are on the chats as well, that kind of everyone's communicating, and every now and then they'll be like, "Hey, I have a customer coming in store. Can someone take over my chat?" And then they'll just hop in, tag in, and continue working with the customer if they've already been with them. So um, it's not always the easiest depending on the amount of staff, but I'm kind of the safety net. I can still sell. I come from a sales background, so if we get overwhelmed, I'll hop in and make sure people are looked after.
That's cool. And then the other thing that you did too with the live chat is you were able to feed, or maybe correct me how I'm probably gonna potentially mess this up a little bit, but it sounds like you created an event in Google Analytics for when a chat was initiated. And so you could take that event and fire that off and connect it with your Meta ad platform and be able to say, hey, this customer that you sent was more likely to buy because they initiated a chat session with us, which would help dial in your ad targeting. Am I thinking about that right?
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, it's different for every business, but for us, because so much of our overall revenue comes from people giving us credit cards in store or over the phone or over a chat, it's hard for Meta or Google to get the information they need to know what ads are actually winning. If you're only getting one or two or three online purchases a day, it just doesn't really know what ads are working with that limited data. So we found that our ads, just customers that were initiating a chat, were warm leads. They were people that, even if they didn't buy, they're people that are interested enough to initiate the chat. So we use that still to this day as a really great metric for ad efficiency. And so this is, if you listen in on one of our marketing calls, it'll be, this ad is generating $73 live chats or $105 live chats. That's really good. Whereas if they're costing north of $500, that's a problem, and that's not a winning ad set. So we'll use those. It used to be our North Star. We're kind of always trying to find that balance of what are we pushing for, and we've leaned more towards initiate checkout at this point more than initiate live chat. We found that it's just slightly better at driving revenue for us, but we still use live chat as a metric that we're monitoring on a regular basis, especially for big ticket people. If you're selling big tickets, it's just not always as simple as add to cart, add to checkout, ding onto the next. It's just, it's a little more nuanced when we're trying to find ad efficiency.
Yeah. And so you mentioned, kind of the cost per, not per acquisition, but for a chat initiation. 75 sounded pretty good. 500 is on the high side. So you have thought about live chat, I'm guessing, more than 99% of people listening to this. And so I'm guessing those numbers are probably reasonably good. Granted, there's some niche variability based on demand and stuff, but it sounds like somebody listening could probably use that as a very rough proxy. Hey, if I've got a $300 AOV and I got 50% margin, so I'm looking at 150, and maybe I'll get some back end on that on LTV for people buying again. If I can acquire it, if I can dial in, get it at $75, that's not a bad deal. But if you've got a $50, $100 AOV, it's gonna be much harder to make this work. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for us, we're $4,000 AOV, so it's a little different. So when you're looking at a $75 acquisition, that's relatively reasonable, but you're still not everybody initiating a live chat is going to buy. So, it's not as easy. I mean, if you have a smaller AOV, chances are that you're getting significantly more just purchases and initiate checkouts. I would say that's probably an easier way to find efficiency. Yeah, I mean, efficiency, when you talk about, people in the eComm world, customer acquisition efficiency is basically what everyone is losing sleep over in 2024. That seems to be the number one thing. So it's a struggle for everyone out there.
Yeah. And I'm actually going to ask you about that quickly before we do, though. You were kind enough to offer a lot of your modules and notes. You actually went through, we're thinking about, selling all the knowledge that you built up over these years of dialing in live chat, decided that wasn't the best route, but you've got all these amazing resources. You super generously offered them to any eCommerce Fuel community members. So if you're in eCommerce Fuel as one of our members, head on over to ecommercefuel.com/chat-modules. And if you're logged in, that will take you to the discussion that Matt was kind of talking about. So you can kind of follow up with that. I am curious on the revenue side and the CPAs. what percentage of your ads or what percentage of your purchases come from ads, from paid spends? What platforms are you using, and how are you thinking about? You just alluded to it. It's getting more expensive. What are you doing to try to keep those ad costs and those acquisition costs down?
Yeah, it's been a journey over the last couple of years, as I think everyone probably listening to this can attest to. I'm just feeling grateful that at this point in the market, I've been around long enough to kind of sharpen the spear, I would say, because if I was starting my business now, I think I'd be in a lot of trouble without knowing what I already know. So I'm pretty grateful to that. But yeah, I mean, comparing when I was first starting this business in 2018, we would turn on our Google ads and I had zero idea what I was doing. I was just having some keyword targeting and a couple of shopping campaigns, and we were getting our 10, 15x on our ROAS, and it was just, simple. To slowly but surely those days dying. And at this point, I mean, to answer your initial question, we're putting more money into Meta. I would say Meta is where the majority of our spend goes, as well as Google, but Meta is our big driver of business. And I think the biggest thing that I'm excited about right now, the biggest focus for us is email. Email is my number one priority, and it's been something that I'm really excited about lately. Just seeing how much meat on the bone there is if you really build quality flows and and you have a good pop-up. I was obviously, like most people, sad to see Amps get acquired, and then the pop-up is slowly, I mean, some people are concerned I want to keep it in Klaviyo for the time being, and that's a little concerning, but email has been so cool just to see, instead of, going back to our early days of really simple Google ads, really simple Meta ads. Now we have really, really, solid video content on Meta that we're pushing and on Google, and really just trying to acquire those emails and then nurture them through our drip campaigns, nurture them through our really good abandoned checkout flows, post-purchase flows, and focus on really driving up our email revenue. So that's my big focus right now.
That's on email for what you sell. Big beds, big frames. Are you getting most of your kind of repeat purchase revenue from accessories, from like pillows, sheets, things like that? Because it seems like it would be, especially like a 25-year warranty. Unless people are needing multiple beds or they're running some kind of like care facility or something, that's going to be harder. So where are you getting that additional incremental revenue?
This is my biggest struggle with my business. There is very little repeat business ever. So it's mainly, you eat what you kill at all times with us. So the positives that you have a high AOV, so that helps, but we're constantly in acquisition mode. There's not a big follow-up purchase for us. So when I talk about email, it's more, hey, we've paid to get you to our site. We want to collect that email so that we can take multiple additional swings to just make sure you're a Leva Sleep customer, not to resell you. I mean, the post-purchase, that kind of stuff is mainly for accessories, for sheets and for mattress protectors and for things like that. But the bigger part of it is just collecting emails at a high rate, and then marketing to them. I mean, just as an example, when we were doing, there was a long time where you have to enter your email when you did our live chat. So our whole thing was, hey, we're going to initiate live chats, and then anyone who's chatting with us, we have their email, they'll be entered into our flow, and then we can remarket to them. Great. Which was effective, but we were only collecting 1% of customer emails on live chat. So as soon as we added a really, really good welcome flow with a solid, just nicely made and tested pop-up, we got that email sign up to 7%. And going from 1 to 7 was a difference of a couple $100,000 a month in sales. So it's pretty substantial difference when you're just collecting those customers and then building them into a really good flow that they were already interested, but we're just not having to pay to reacquire that customer. We have them.
Yeah. What what do you use for the best pop-up? Obviously for live chat, you get that, but what is the carrot that you offer? You seem like a man that tests things and really thinks deeply about things. I'm sure you've tested a handful. What do you guys have now, and what have you tried that's worked and not worked?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing was just the amped pop-up. That's kind of, they were the gold standard in pop-up for a lot of businesses. They were acquired recently by MailChimp, I think, or Intuit. So I'm still using them for the time being, but I think that because they're not going to integrate into Klaviyo after the next year, people are concerned about that. So for one, beautiful pop-up, looks great, takes over the whole screen. That's a huge part of it. It's engaging. And then they have a built-in just testing thing. So we just ran a bunch of different tests. Honestly, the one we're running right now is just really simple. It's a beautiful welcome and you get 10% off. And we changed some of the text. It was like, sign up. And yeah, like if you say no, it's like, I don't like saving. That got us another, my wife actually suggested that, where at first it was saying, yes or no. And she's like, you got to change it to I don't like saving on the no. I saw that on a makeup site and I liked it. Obviously everyone engages. No one wants to turn down saving. So that actually did get us an extra 0.5% of buy-in. So thanks for that one, honey, or the makeup company, wherever she saw it. But really just a good email capture. But then I think the big part is just a really good drip campaign that's going to keep customers engaged, that's not going to annoy them. It allows you to tell your business's story a little bit more, because if they just saw one compelling ad on Google or Facebook, clicked, entered their email, they might not know much about you. So being able to just really subtly engage with the customer and then hit them with your offers a month down the road, 2 months down the road, continue to hit them with some of those offers. It's been a big driver for us. And I think there's still huge opportunity there. I think for us, it's like, where can now we find acquisition that used to be too expensive, but because we have this email strategy where all we need to do is to get them to sign up for their email. We don't need to get them to buy yet. And then we can allow our drip, our really good email campaigns just to win them over time and hopefully turn them into customers. That's more what I'm focused on right now.
What is your email campaign? It sounds very effective and you're driving a ton of revenue from that. What does it at a high level look like? How much education, how much, hard pitching, the type of education? Do you make it entertaining and funny? Is it more just like, hey, do you want to stop suffering with awful back pain? Here's what you like. What does that look like if I went and signed up for that?
Yeah. I mean, right now I would say it's more pitching than I would say it's 80% hard pitching, 20% education. I want to do more education. So it's at the moment, it's not, I wouldn't say we're at a peak level. This is what I'm most excited about. So I would say we were doing horribly on email. If you talked to us a year ago, I would say we're 5 out of 10 right now, which has already been a huge difference for us. But this is where I'm spending 50% of my bandwidth right now. I think that there's some really great companies that I've seen that are doing things that we're in the process of building out, which is going to be launched before Black Friday. And the really interesting thing I think is your welcome flow is, instead of just for right now, a kind of a really good welcome flow is welcome, enter your email to save 10% off, where kind of coming full circle to what we were chatting about with engaging and with customers. What our new welcome flow is going to be is there's 4 options when you come to our welcome. And it's like, I'm interested in sleeping better. I reducing snoring. I sleep hot. My partner is, so there's different things of why they're here, what brought them to this point, and whatever they click on, we're going to have 4 or 5 separate welcome flows that educate them specifically on what we do to solve their problem that they're here for. Because people don't care about the deals necessarily. They don't care about your company and what you're up to. They just care about solving their own problem. So if we can kind of highly personalize whatever flow they join, it's going to help increase efficiency, I think. So that's what we're in the process of building out. But I would say for right now, it's mainly the hammer when people sign up for it, if I'm being completely honest.
Listen, buy this. You're wasting money if you don't buy it. You can't argue with what works. Sounds like it's working well. Give it your flows. Well, Matt, congrats on building something so cool. I mean, it's amazing what you have done with live chat, but also with really cutting edge brick and mortar stuff. Even if it's not, even if it's a slightly dystopian when people walk in, there's so much respect I have for the sense of efficiency and innovative thinking that goes into, and even just the engineering to build all of it. It's really cool. So congrats on that. And before we wrap up, I do got to ask, what from Canada, live up in the north. You said you might be potentially heading somewhere else at some point. Why are you thinking about moving, and where would you be headed?
Well, I think that there's some changes up here in Canada where it seems like more and more you're villainized if you're ambitious. So up here, there's been more and more, just rhetoric about taxing the people that are making a lot of money, trying to, push things more into the middle class. And it just takes its toll over time. So my wife and I and our daughter, we've spent a lot of time in South Carolina. We love it down there. So more and more we've been renting a house down there and trying to escape winter. But we love the people down there. We love the community. And I think that just naturally I'm a capitalist, and the U.S. Suits me a little bit more, I would say. We've always spent a lot of time down there. So I love Canada. I mean, it's my home. We still love it here. But I think that overall, for my long-term aspirations of taking over the world, the U.S. is a better place to be situated.
Where in South Carolina? And then how long do you stay when you come down in the winters?
Yeah, so I mean, we were staying just outside of Bluffton, in a place called Palmetto Bluff. So we went down there. We were driving during COVID. Our doctor said, my wife's pregnant, said you can't fly. It's better to drive. So we went on this road trip, and we're driving through there, and it was my wife's birthday, and there's this beautiful hotel there called the Montage, and we booked a couple nights there, and it was just unbelievable. It's this amazing hotel, and so that's kind of how we found the area. And then I started looking, and we're like, well, can't stay at the Montage for a long period of time. Things get a little crazy. So we rented a house, and we show up, and the house that we rent, it's owned by these other Canadians that just happen to be from a couple blocks down the street from where we live back home. And they're really nice. And they start telling us about the whole place. They're like, oh yeah, during COVID, it was brutal up north. So we moved here, and now we love it down here. They're showing us where their kids are going to school. Everyone was so nice. You get the Southern hospitality. And we were down there. It's just unbelievable. So we went down for a couple weeks the first year, and then we've slowly extended our stay longer and longer. So last year we were there for, I think, 6 weeks. So slowly but surely making it happen down there. But for now, with all of our stores up here, it's more of a medium term plan. I'm not packing up quite yet, but I think that down the road, it's where we're going to end up.
I don't know, man. Give it 10 years and people will be used to the jumbotron sales, and you can just do it all remote from South Carolina or the Montage. At that point, maybe you just buy the suite, the Montage, and just set up shop there permanently.
Absolutely. I don't see why not. Yeah, you get these robo stores going, and who knows, with AI getting better and better, maybe it'll just be AI agents on the screen that look perfect. They've studied all the top salespeople across the world, and people don't even know. They're getting dialed in from a person that doesn't exist. So
we'll do a touch base with you in 5 years here and see how that's going on the jumbotron AI bots. And I know there's some people listening too. I mean, obviously most people are mostly interested in the e-commerce side of things, and you didn't disappoint. Super fascinating. But I would be shocked if there weren't a good number of people too that, have a crappy mattress, have horrific back pain, are sleeping, boiling hot. Leva Sleep, Leva sleep.com. Give people kind of an idea of what they can find there and who you can best help if someone's listening who's in a world of hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we specialize in adjustable beds. This is all we do. So, our value prop is, of course, we want to make sure you sleep well. The way I look at it is, if you were buying a bed, 20 years ago, you're going to buy a flat bed. Same as if you were buying a cell phone. If you're buying a cell phone 20 years ago, you're going to walk into the store, they give you the clam phone, you can play Snake on it, it's all great. So for us, adjustable beds are kind of like the smartphone of beds. The majority of our customers are 30 to 65 looking for a comfortable bed. You don't have to be sleeping flat. Now our beds, you can make those slight adjustments if your hip hurts, if your back hurts, if you have any lower back pain, there's a lumbar control, like a high-end car seat that can come up and support you. So for us, it's like, this is not a senior's bed. This is really just for someone that wants to sleep well, can make those fine-tune adjustments. So the Made in Canada is a great story, but I think for us, it's because we cut out the manufacturing and do it ourselves, we just can offer better pricing. So, and no one wants to support locally made, and if it costs a penny more. So that's why we focus on keeping it really great price point. And then if anyone in the US, we also have levadirect.com, which is our North America free shipping option, where there's our top sellers, but then we have them stocked in Atlanta and we can ship them all over North America for free. So we got you covered down south as well until we get there ourselves.
Love it. So levasleep.com if you're in Canada, or levadirect.com if you're in the US. So
that's right.
Matt, this has been a ton of fun. Congrats on what you built. Congrats on surviving rabies and the wild coyote / wolf hybrids and everything you've built. It's and great having you in ECF. So thank you for coming on to do this, and hope to be able to hang out sometime soon at an event, or next time in Toronto, or if you make it down to Montana. So would love to grab some food. So this is a blast. I'm sure it'd be even more fun in person. So.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much. And I've been really, I'm a new member of the ECF community, but I mean, that guarantee is safe for me, that's for sure. Immediately when I signed up, within 3 days, I'd already, I think, received so much value that it's a pretty amazing community. So I've been really enjoying it. The people are so welcoming and so nice, and really there's just so much value as soon as you hop on there that it's been pretty amazing. So thanks for making that happen for me as well.
Yeah, well, thanks. I mean, you added dramatically to it with your write-ups and your contributions so far, so which led right to this conversation. So yeah, right back at you. Thanks for making it work.
My pleasure. Thank you.